Time for your Week 8 whiteboard walkthrough. That was the name thrown out last week. I kind of like it. I think we might stick with it. Baltimore Ravens, Chicago Bears. This is a really fun game and a very interesting matchup for a lot of different reasons. So we're going to spend a lot of time talking about personnel and how they're going to try to match up in this game because it's going to be fascinating between these two coaching staffs. Coaching is really going to matter on Sunday. Games at noon on CBS. The Ravens 6.5-point favorites, despite only being 1-5 against the 4-2 Bears. Easy to argue that spread is disrespectful to the Bears. Interestingly enough, the over-unders come down a little bit. It was 50.5 earlier in the week. It's down to 49. Ravens, of course, had their bye week last week. They badly needed it. Time to regroup, get a lot of guys healthy, but they have lost 4 games in a row. John Harbaugh is their head coach in his 18th season. Former special teams coordinator, has done an outstanding job there. 173-109 is his career record as a head coach. Of course, won the Super Bowl back in 2012. Todd Monken is their offensive coordinator. It's his 3rd season. Wheaton native, so he's a local to Chicago. And he interviewed, you might remember, for the Chicago Bears head coaching job last year, in January. That was Adam Johns' guy. I really like Todd Monken. Zach Orr is their defensive coordinator. It's his 2nd season as defensive coordinator. He replaced Mike McDonald, who is now the Seahawks head coach. He's been with the Ravens, though, since he was a player. Came in as an undrafted free agent since in 2014. Played a few years, then went right to the coaching staff. The only year he wasn't in Baltimore is he spent 1 year with Jacksonville in 2021. But he knows the culture in Baltimore, knows the defense, knows how to play, and he's been a good DC for them so far. However, we'll get into some of the numbers. It's been a rough year defensively, a lot of that having to do with injuries. Their special teams coordinator is Chris Orton, 7th year. He's also been with the Ravens for a long time because he was their assistant special teams coordinator before that. Couple special teams names to know we're going to actually talk about in a second because they were both drafted, part of the draft class this year. So we'll go to that right away. Malachi Starks, their talented safety. Every year the Ravens let somebody just fall to them late in the 1st round, and then they just draft a really good player that instantly starts for them. Malachi Starks is that guy this year. Mike Green, the edge rusher in the 2nd round. That was Greg Braggs' guy. He's off to a rough start. However, might get some more opportunity here coming out of the bye, so keep that name in mind. Remember, he came out of Marshall last year. We spent a lot of time talking about him on this show. Teddy Buchanan is a linebacker they drafted in the 4th round. Unlike the Bears' 4th round linebacker, he plays a lot. He is their weak side linebacker alongside Roquan Smith. Tyler Loop and LeJohntay Wester are the 2 other guys. They're 6th round picks I want to talk about in special teams because Tyler Loop, they drafted their kicker to replace Justin Tucker. He's been solid so far. LeJohntay Wester, very talented returner out of Colorado, played for Deion Sanders. I liked him a lot. I think I might even put him in a Bears mock draft in the offseason. So he's somebody to watch in the return game. In terms of guys they lost and gained this year, DeAndre Hopkins, the big wide receiver, who we'll talk about the personnel in a second, but he's actually not on the field as much as you would think. He's really only on the field in 11 personnel. Cooper Rush, backup quarterback, struggled with Lamar Jackson out. So there was already thinking that Tyler Huntley would go if Lamar Jackson can't this week. And Chidobe Awuzie, the cornerback who's been in the league for a while, they also added him in the offseason. He is back healthy after being hurt a little bit. And really, they didn't lose a ton, but Patrick McCarry went to Jacksonville, their right guard, so they did have to replace him. In terms of the EPA matchups, again, expected points added per play. Ravens have been struggling, 23rd offensively. This needs an asterisk, though, because it's a different number when Lamar Jackson's out there. Okay, we'll get into that in a second. But they're probably not the 23rd best offense when Lamar Jackson's playing, so keep that in mind. It's just been really, really bad when he hasn't been out there. Defensively, though, 31st, they've really struggled. Bears, they keep creeping up here, both defensively and offensively, up to 12th in EPA per play on defense, which is great, and then offense, they're up to 20th. Let's get into the matchups now. Bears offense versus Ravens D. We will start with that. Interestingly enough, okay, we've talked a lot about how the Bears' running game, that EPA per rush just 2 weeks ago was 32nd before the Washington game. They're up to 25 now. That's because in the last 2 weeks, the Bears ranked 2nd in the league in EPA per play running the ball. So we'll see if they can keep that going. It's been a completely night and day from earlier in the season. Still running a lot of 12 personnel, but that is going to be interesting this week because the Ravens have really struggled defending 11 personnel. The Bears ran a lot more 11 against Washington a couple weeks ago because they felt like that was the best way to beat that team. Will they do the same thing this week because the Ravens have struggled against 11 personnel? And also because of Cole Kmet, he's questionable right now, very questionable, I'd say, because of that back issue he's been dealing with. So they're down a tight end. Do the Bears run as much 12? Because I keep bringing this up every single week. While the Bears do run a lot of 12 personnel with 2 tight ends, they're 9th in the league. They've actually been more effective out of 11 personnel. So that will be very interesting to watch this week. Again, if Cole can't go, we're talking about a greater role for Colston Loveland, which everybody wants. Everybody's rooting for that. So we'll see if he gets more involved. If you need a streaming tight end this week because Trey McBride's on a bye like for me, Colston Loveland might be a good pickup this week because the Ravens have struggled against tight ends. Just telling you that. All right, Roquan Smith, we know him. Put a star next to his name. He's back healthy. First game against the Bears since they traded him to Baltimore a few years ago. You know he'll be highly motivated to go, and he's still a very, very good player, all-pro type player. He's got the rookie playing next to him. Malachi Starks in the back end too. Couple of question marks here. Humphrey's dealing with an illness. He primarily plays in the slot when they have the nickel personnel on the field. I'm assuming he's going to be okay. Kyle Hamilton, though, with that groin is something to watch. And while this defense is getting much healthier, they are still without their talented 3-technique Matabuke. So that does change things. John Jenkins, you may remember him, former Bear, is basically been playing their nose tackle with Matabuke out. So that's a look at what it looks like when the Bears offense is going against the Ravens D. Now this to me is the fascinating side in terms of how these teams match up this week. Now the Ravens quickly have, surprisingly with Derrick Henry, struggled to run the ball this year. They're just 26 in EPA per rush. Very good though throwing the ball deep. And that matters this week because especially if Lamar's back out there, they're going to take some deep shots, and the Bears have struggled defensively to defend those deep shots. Think like even last week, Tyreek Stevenson has been playing really, really well, got beat deep, made a great tackle after that. But can the Ravens get the ball over the top against this Bears defense? You got to think they're going to try. Now, I mentioned 23rd EPA per play offensively for the Ravens, but with Lamar out there, they're 6th. So you got to just assume that this is a much better top 10 offense if Lamar Jackson's good to go, which at this point I'm maintaining this is too big of a game. This is like a playoff game for them. You got to think Lamar is going to play. Now, the personnel is what's fascinating. This is the first team I've drawn up in our whiteboard segment all season in 12 personnel because the Ravens run so much of it. They're 3rd in the league in 12 personnel. Almost half their plays, they're going to have 2 tight ends on the field. And also, they've struggled in 11, or they don't run, they're 29th in 11 personnel, and they're not that effective out of it either. So this is how I wanted to draw this up because notice who I don't have on the field here. I have Nick McLeod here outside corner because we're assuming Tyreek Stevenson dealing with that shoulder injury is not going to play. And I got Nashawn Wright over here. Noah Sewell's expected to be back from his concussion. So I have 3 linebackers on the field. This is the base defense. Where's number 6? Kyler Gordon. Now, when Tyreek Stevenson went out last week and the Bears were in base defense with DeMarco Jackson in for Noah Sewell, obviously, Nick McLeod on the field, Kyler Gordon was off the field. Now, I don't like that. I don't think the Bears probably like that. They paid him a lot of money. So how does defensive coordinator Dennis Allen handle this? Because another option you can do is just keep your nickel personnel on the field against 12 and maybe just have Kyler Gordon more in a linebacker role. Now, when they go to 11, because they will do it, obviously we're actually talking about a little less than half the plays still here in 12 personnel. DeAndre Hopkins will come on the field. He'll be more of the X for the Ravens, and then you'll see Zay Jones come over here, in which case Kyler Gordon's going to match up over there. But if you're the Ravens, you run so much 12 personnel. You're good at 12 personnel. Kyler Gordon, do you just try to keep him off the field by running as much 12 as you can? And then if that's what they choose to do, what does Dennis Allen do? Because you can't just have one of your best defensive players on the bench the entire game. So I got to imagine that they get creative here in their personnel. Dennis Allen's been doing this every single week. He's been doing a really good job at it too, trying to keep these teams guessing. The problem though too is if you do keep Kyler Gordon kind of out here as more of a linebacker role, they got this guy Patrick Ricard, who everybody should know. He's one of the best fullbacks in the league, and he's a beast. So all of a sudden, they can take Isaiah Likely off and go to 21 personnel, add Ricard here as the fullback, and I probably should have put him more on this side, because this, as much as I like Kyler Gordon, would be kind of a nightmare if you have him coming downhill on a much smaller defensive back who's trying to play linebacker. Hey, these are two creative coaching staffs, two really good coaching staffs. How they match up, the ideas they come up with, that cat and mouse game, the chess match, whatever you want to call it, it's going to be really fascinating on this side of the ball when the Ravens offense is up against the Bears defense. I can't wait for this game. If you can't tell, hope everybody enjoys it. Come out to Joe's on Weed Street. That's where we're going to be watching it. Lance Briggs, Jerry Azuma, Corey Wooten, everybody's going to be there. So come out to Joe's on Weed on Sunday.